Hello guys, my name is Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to be covering the top 10 things you should know before getting gender reassignment surgery or sexual reassignment surgery. This is a list that's a compilation of all the things I wish I knew before I had my gender reassignment surgery. So I thought it would be a really good idea to kind of compile it into like a 10-part list. This isn't everything I wish I knew, but these are kind of the most important things I wish I knew. So yeah, that is what we're doing in today's video. But before we get started, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it at the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my lovely channel. You can support me on Patreon now. I officially started a Patreon. It's down in the link below, and all of that kind of good standard YouTuber spiel. Okay, so let's jump in at number one. So coming in at number one is the fact that gender reassignment surgery, sexual reassignment surgery, whatever you want to call it, it does not fix gender dysphoria. It does alleviate some of the symptoms of gender dysphoria. It is a very affirming thing to go through, but it does not completely alleviate gender dysphoria. And I think this is a common misconception within the community, that it's kind of this big fix for gender dysphoria and things like that. You still feel dysphoric afterwards. It is a much reduced rate, but you do still feel dysphoric afterwards, but it does not fix gender dysphoria. It's not the answer to gender dysphoria. So don't go into it with that mindset, because you will be disappointed. Okay, so coming in at number two is the fact that it is not the end of your transition. For some people, gender reassignment surgery, sexual reassignment surgery, it may be the end of their physical transition, but it is not the end of the transition. This links to point number one, you know, it doesn't alleviate gender dysphoria, it's not the end of your transition. And I think, again, these are really common misconceptions within the trans community, but your transition is a lifelong, ongoing thing. It evolves as you evolve as a person. So it isn't the end of a transition. It may be the end of a physical transition, it may be the end of a medical transition, because I've recently been discharged following on from my surgery from the gender identity clinic. So it does mark the end of a medical transition, but it does not mark the end of your transition journey, because that is ongoing and constantly evolving with you as a person. Okay, so coming in at number three, I wanted to talk to you guys about how long the recovery period for this is. So the recovery period for gender reassignment surgery, sexual reassignment surgery, is anywhere between 10 to like 16 to 20 weeks for like a general recovery, but you don't actually fully recover from your surgery, and your vagina doesn't actually start to settle down until 1 year kind of post-op. It is a really long recovery. It is grueling, it is intense. There are a lot of things that can potentially go wrong, which I'm going to talk about in the next point. But yes, I really think that people should have a better understanding of how long it takes to recover from gender reassignment surgery, sexual reassignment surgery, because it's a long time. You're talking a minimum of 4 months, which is a long recovery time from anything. It takes less time to fix a broken bone than it does to recover from gender reassignment surgery, because it's a hugely invasive, really intimate, in like one of the worst places to keep clean. Like, it is an intense surgery. So the recovery is a long ass time. Okay, so leading on from point number three is point number four, and that is how much time you have to take off of work. Now, a lot of people combat this in different ways. I didn't take time off work because I had lost my job just before getting gender reassignment surgery. I had been made redundant and I had life savings. So that was how I was supporting myself through that. But in order to take 4 months off, you have to take some form of unpaid leave, of reduced leave if you're working, and you have to be really aware of that, and you have to be really honest with your employer that it could be this long, it could be that long. Like, I would say if you're looking to recover from gender reassignment surgery, I would look ideally at 4 to 6 months off work. This can be through unpaid leave, this can be through holiday, this can be through obviously medical leave, but medical leave doesn't cover certain things. And I know in the United Kingdom it doesn't necessarily cover recovery time from gender reassignment surgery, sexual reassignment surgery. So that is just something to bear in mind, is the fact that it is a really long recovery time, and you do need to take a considerable amount of time off of work. So make sure you're prepared for that financially, make sure you're prepared for that professionally, make sure you're prepared to be open about it with employers if they ask you why there's a 6-month gap if you have to leave, like things like that. But make sure that you are financially secure enough or comfortable enough going and living with family and things like that in order to take time off work, leave your job, all of those things. Okay, so coming in at number 5 is how much time are you going to be spending in hospital? This varies from doctor to doctor, procedure to procedure. It is entirely variable. However, the standard time to spend in hospital following gender reassignment surgery, sexual reassignment surgery, is 1 week. It is not an extremely long amount of time. I think people assume it's going to be really, really long because it's a really intense surgery. You literally go to hospital, you check in the day before, you sign off all of your kind of paperwork that they have to give you. The next day you have your enema, and then you go in for your gender reassignment surgery that day, and then you have about 6 days recovery. So the first 3 days of your hospital recovery, you are on a catheter, you do not have a bowel movement, all of those things. And then the last few days of your time in hospital is, can you pass urine by yourself? Can you have a bowel movement by yourself? Is your urine retaining any liquids and things like that? You have to have sonograms, you have to have 4-hourly blood tests, you have to take certain medication, you have to take blood thinners to make sure you don't develop a blood clot, you have to wear compression stockings to make sure you don't develop a blood clot, you have to learn to walk around kind of the second day. It is not a huge amount of recovery time in a physical hospital. So that's something that I went into it with like a preconceived notion about. I thought I was gonna have much more time in hospital, thought I was gonna have much more time to recover in hospital, but I was only there for a week, kind of start to finish. I think I went in on the 14th and I left on the 21st. So exactly 7 days. Okay, so leading on from number 5 and going into number 6, it is time to talk about the very real possibility of complications. Complications following gender reassignment surgery, sexual reassignment surgery, are really, really important to discuss because they are very, very common. Now, it is entirely dependent on you as a person, your body, how you heal and things like that. But for myself, I developed hypergranulation, I had wound adhesion and things like that. But for a lot of other people, they can develop things like the retaining of urine in their bladder, and they can develop all sorts of different things. The wall between the new vaginal cavity and the anal cavity can rupture. All sorts of things can happen. These are really, really common things. So prepare yourself for them, read up on them, things like, things like the collapse of the kind of vaginal wall, things like wound adhesion, hypergranulation, wound separation, all of those things. Make sure you read up on them before you go. That's not to put you guys off. That's not to say that having complications means that you shouldn't have the surgery. You absolutely should, and a lot of surgery comes with complications, but the complication rate for gender reassignment surgery is just higher, and that's kind of it. So just to be really aware that complications are likely, they can happen, it is completely natural for them to happen. It's a really, really intense surgery in a really, really intimate area that's really difficult to keep clean. So infections are really common and things like that. So make sure you're reading up on those and mentally preparing yourself for the day that it could potentially happen. Okay, so the next thing to mention coming in at number 7 is dilating. You have to dilate every single day from, I think, day 4 of your hospital recovery. You have to dilate 3 times a day for 20 to 50 minutes. It's a really big undertaking and it's really painful to begin with. And honestly, for me, it was painful all throughout the end, but that was my journey, not necessarily your journey. I don't want to put you guys off from doing that, but you have to dilate every single day, otherwise you risk a serious kind of loss of depth. I lost a lot of depth in my vagina following on from my complications and my inability to dilate because of my complications. So dilating is like the biggest bane of your life following on from gender reassignment surgery. You'd think it's like going to the bathroom or something, but no, dilating is the biggest bane of your life. I highly recommend getting like a changing mat or something to dilate on at home, making sure you've got loads of sanitary towels. Also, highly recommend getting prescribed something like Instilla gel, a gel that's used for lubricating the dilator that also has a numbing agent in it. Really, really important, because for me it was so painful for the first few weeks. So I highly recommend looking into getting that prescribed before you leave the hospital. So please look into that. Please, because dilating will become the bane of your life. Also, to note about dilating, you will be started off on the medium dilators. If you are struggling with the medium dilators, you can go down to the smaller dilators. That's what I had to do. I then had to build myself back up to the medium dilators, but I just didn't have the space, and because of my hypergranulation, I was really really struggling to be able to get my dilators into my new vagina. So you can size down. They obviously don't recommend it, but you can size down to maintain depth and then increase width as you heal. So that's also something to be very aware of. Okay, so coming in at number 8, we have probably the most disgusting one. So if you're easily cringed, please do not watch number 8. But number 8 is that it will look and feel and smell disgusting, like absolutely grim. Vaginal discharge that's like anywhere from black to green to bright red. The odor is fucking disgusting. I am not kidding you when I say the odor is disgusting for the first maybe month and a half. Trying to pass urine and clean your vagina properly is horrendous. For the first few weeks, I would highly recommend every single time you use the bathroom, you have to rinse it out afterwards. You just have to, because it gets dirty, it smells really, really bad. Also, if you're suffering from any type of wound adhesion, you'll have pieces of flesh falling off your vagina all fucking times of the day. I had pieces of flesh, like chunks of flesh falling off my vagina. Again, that's not to put you off, but it's just to mentally prepare you for the first month. Although you will feel incredibly affirmed and alleviated of your gender dysphoria, your vagina will suck. It will absolutely suck. You will hate it. It will smell bad. It will feel bad. It will itch. It will bleed. All of those things. All of those things. So that is number 8. And I'm sorry, but I just had to tell you guys. I didn't want you guys to not know that you will feel awful for ages. Not to mention that when you're in hospital, you can't shower for like 6 days. So you will also feel awful because of that. Okay, so coming in at number 9. This one should be really obvious, but it's something that I get asked all the time. And it's the fact that there's no sex. You can't have sex while you're recovering. I mean, or you can if you want to risk it. However, I personally didn't want to risk it. I had a particular run-in with my boyfriend at the time who just happened to give me, you know, like a playful spank. Ripped out 3 of my stitches from my vagina. Just ripped them out, just with one spank. I had to call the doctors. It was an absolute disaster. So when I tell you there is no sex, your sex life dies dead, buried 6 feet under the ground. Now, they recommend that you can start having intercourse if you're at a comfortable width in your vagina at between 10 and 12 weeks. I personally, from my own experience, I don't recommend this. Not at all, not even a little bit. Don't understand why anyone's been recommending this at all. I dropped stitches, I lost stitches, So the sex is somewhat non-existent, not only because, I mean, for me personally, it's like a trust thing. I just felt disgusting and my vagina smelled really bad. I didn't want anyone to see it. It was just like, so sex is non-existent. That is number 9. Don't go into this expecting you're gonna have sex within like 10 weeks because you're probably not. You are probably not gonna have sex within 10 weeks. And don't let anyone spank you because it's a bad idea. Bad idea. Okay, and that brings us right to home with number 10, and that is the fact that it is the best thing you will ever do. And I'm speaking from my personal experience. You know, obviously there are a lot of people who choose not to have surgery, and those people are completely valid as trans people. If having gender reassignment surgery is something that you really, really want, and it's something that you are pursuing and you haven't changed your mind on it, I am here to tell you it is the best thing I ever did. I feel so much more affirmed in my gender. You know, I've had more insecurities pop up that I've been able to deal with kind of much better, and I feel so much better about my body. I feel so much more confident within my own skin. I can't tell you what an amazingly like affirming thing it is to go through. So yeah, that is number 10. It's just that, you know, all of the things that happened to me, all of the complications, going through it during COVID, all of those things, I wouldn't change it for the world because I love it. I love my new vagina. It makes me feel comfortable in my own skin. I would go through it all again in a heartbeat, in an absolute heartbeat. Like, wouldn't even think about it. It was just the best thing the best thing I ever did. So if you're thinking about getting it and you haven't changed your mind, then honestly, I highly recommend getting it. I know there's a certain percentage of people out there that maybe after they had it wouldn't feel as comfortable, but I'm here to tell you that for me, it was the best decision I have ever made in my life. It was the best, and I love my vagina. So my lovelies, those were my top 10 things that you should definitely know before going through gender reassignment surgery. Obviously, I am a male to female transgender woman. I went through gender reassignment surgery, sexual reassignment surgery, male to female, penis to vagina, so I can only speak on my experiences, but I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope it helps someone out there who is considering getting gender reassignment surgery and just wants to know kind of what they should know, what they should prepare for, and things like that. If you guys want more videos like this, how to prepare for gender reassignment surgery, how to pack for gender reassignment surgery, things like that, then please just do drop them in the comments down below. And I will see you this Sunday for my monthly live. My live stream in February couldn't happen because unfortunately I was really ill, but this month it's going ahead, so we're very excited. So I will see you on Sunday, the 28th of March for a live stream at 6:30 GMT. And if I don't see you there, have a lovely day and make good choices and be happy and get a vagina because they're great. Bye.